Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? If you can, just type yes in the chat box. Okay, cool. Welcome to Jamboree, and a very good evening to everyone. The people who are interested in doing an MBA, having good dreams to be fulfilled in time to come. And we are touching the base for the two countries primarily for today. One is Canada and one is the USA. So it's a sort of a Canada versus USA MBA. And if you have any specific questions or any queries, we'll just go through the housekeeping rules. Let's keep in mind that the questions we'll keep for the end. And just type in the question in Q&A box only. So don't type your questions in the chat box. Raise your hand if you just want to ask questions by voice. That too, once we are done with a small PPT. I will go through the PPT for around 10 to 12 minutes. And the same like my colleague will go for the USA, and then we will just take up the questions. So we'd like to have more time for the Q&A. And finally, the webinar is primarily focused on the MBAs. So in case if someone is for doing the masters, specialized or MIMs, please leave your number and the email IDs in the chat box. So we'll get back to you. Someone will get back from Jamboree to you for that. Okay, so let's begin. And just to have a start, I have a background which is symbolic of Canada. So you all must be aware that Canada is famous for the maple. So that's why we should be knowing about what's happening in Canada, the culture of maple and all. So anyone who is interested in Canada, please start doing your research for it. It's a pretty interesting topic, and Canadians are very particular of their maple leaves. They do have their own teams and everything. So start your research with a maple leaf. That's an amazing thing to do. Let's go for the MBAs. So what are the parameters to choose an MBA? If the question comes to anyone, we have the following parameters. Like you will choose the MBA based on the location, the duration of the program, the intakes. So it may be the fall, spring, or somewhere it may be the winter intake. We also have some eligibility or the admission requirements. Like most of the programs in Canada, they do have a basic requirement of 16-year education for pursuing the MBA programs. The cost of attendance, so you may be tight on budget. So the tuition fee also plays one of the important parameters in selecting a certain MBA program. The requirements of the GMAT or the English language like TOEFL, IELTS also take a precedence. Someone may not like to give a GMAT, someone may be willing to give a GMAT, and vice versa for the various English language test requirements. And finally, once you're graduating, what are the study permit norms? Do the programs offer scholarships? And typically, does your profile suits the school? So these are some of the parameters that you should be keeping in mind when you're trying to select an MBA program. Moving on. In Canada, we have two types of program. One are the regular MBAs, which are the either 1-year duration or the 2-year duration. And second one are the co-op MBAs. So co-op MBAs are the ones sort of having the mandatory internships. So some options for the regular 1-year MBAs, IB, Queen's, HEC, Salmon Fraser. These are the typical 1-year MBA programs, all requiring GMATs. And Canada is pretty famous for not waiving any GMATs anyway. So they don't have the history. That's one of the mandatory requirements. If you look at any 2-year MBA program, any program which is 16 months or more, that's counted as a 2-year MBA. Whether it's a 16 months for Schulich, whether it's 20 months for the Rotman, all these are 2-year MBA programs, DGroot, Alberta, and there are some pretty like mid-range ones like Concordia, Brock. They are also the 2-year MBA programs. Co-op programs gives an opportunity to the people who are coming up with the low work ex. So anyone having 0 to 2 years, 0 to 3 year approx work ex, the co-op MBAs will give you a chance to pursue the MBA program and also give you a chance to do a mandatory internship as a part of the MBA program. So these are good for the people having low work ex, and you won't find top MBAs in the USA. So that's one of the huge advantage that you can just get an admission and start your MBA right away, rather than getting enrolled in some deferred MBA across the USA and then waiting for your work ex, having 2 to 4 years, and then try to start the MBA post that. So this is an amazing opportunity for the people who are looking to start the MBA program right away. I will also talk for some basic requirements. Broadly, almost all the programs, they do require a minimum 2 year of work ex. Average for most of the schools is 4.5 to 6 years. So if you have a lower work ex, you have to compensate it somewhere, maybe having high GPAs, maybe having high GMAT, maybe having great bouquet of extracurricular activities. So everything counts in the sort of the application process. So we should be very picky of like what's the missing point in our profile and what are the things we have to improve on. Very important part, the GPAs. Canadian B schools have one of the highest standards in the minimum academic requirements. So we should be keeping a close eye on it when someone is trying to select a program to apply. Rest aside, essays, SOP, letter of recommendations, video assessment. So Kira, like we are almost aware now, everyone, almost all the B schools, they do require a video assessment from the incoming students. So we are looking for this thing in a pretty intensive way nowadays, followed by the interviews and the other requirements. One of the requirements we are quite used to hearing is, can I apply with a 3 year degree in Canada, Canadian MBA programs? Yes, you can, but the number of options are pretty limited, and it's highly advised that you should approach the universities by yourself, give a snapshot of your profile, and then just try to get yourself assessed. If the university says yes, then only put up an application. Common unis which have been accepting the 3 year, they are the Schulich, D Group, UBC, McGill, and these are some of the prominent ones. The best MBAs, yes, they do accept the 3 year degree, but it may also vary from case to case. And lastly, if you're already having an MBA from India, a PGDM program, then you're not much welcome to do another MBA from the Canadian B schools. So you have to check up with all the schools again individually. If the school says yes, then only think of applying to a certain program. Minimum academics, as I touched the base in my earlier slide. So here is a snapshot of the basic minimum academic requirement of some of the schools. And these are pretty high. If someone is from IIT, most of the Canadian B schools, they do have a minimum GPA or the CGPA requirement of 7.5. They don't accept the applications otherwise. Queens, the B average, so generally 70-75% minimum, maybe in the final 2 years. So they will calculate the GPAs as per their own requirements. So similarly, we have it from the UBC, McMaster, and more or less, it's always about 70% up and above without any backlogs. Backlogs doesn't mean that if you have cleared something today, that's fine enough. But if a backlog exists on your transcript, it is counted as a backlog. So whether it was 10 years back or 5 years back doesn't matter. Backlogs certainly impact the candidate's profile. Quick touch point. Postgraduate work permit, almost all the decent MBA programs when you're going for in Canada, if you're doing a 2 year program, it's a 3 year work permit. This is one of the interest area for like almost all the students, that once you're graduating, you should be able to stay in the country, find a job, get a PR and settle down. 1 year MBA programs will give you a chance of 1 year work permit. 2 year MBA programs will give you a chance of up to 3 year work permit. That's a pretty long time to find a job, settle down, and it's an open work permit. So this is a huge advantage compared to doing an MBA in the USB schools. You are certain of getting the work permit whether you work or not. Okay, there is no need for any sponsorship. There's no need for a job to get a work permit and stay in Canada post completing your MBA. So this is again very good advantage when you look at the Canadian education ecosystem. And as I mentioned, like in below at the below of the PPT, so any program which is more than 16 months up to 24 months, all are counted as 24 months programs, and all these programs will give you a 3-year work permit in Canada. So I will also share this little snapshot of the admission counseling we have. So Jamboree's like package involves everything right from the shortlisting, the options, and as per your profile. Uh, Having the documentation assistance, so preparing all the application documents. Yes, the inputs come from the students. We also help with the application reviews, interview preparations, and finally the visa counseling. So it's a kind of an end-to-end process, and everything is taken care of in the complete chain. Like if you get enrolled, so right from point A to Z, we will take care of you, provided you must also be proactive enough. Like it doesn't work the one way. So this was the little snapshot from my side. I'm extending thanks to everyone for the quick listening, and I will hand over to my colleague Vaishali now. So Vaishali, you can begin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anandar. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this evening and taking out time to listen to us. Again, I do want to begin with, am I audible? Can all of you hear me? You can use the chat box to let me know. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about MBA programs in the US. Now, I understand that when we talk about MBA programs in the US, a lot of schools historically are schools that people have heard of, right? Everyone's heard of the Harvards, Whartons, Stanfords, Kellogg's of the world. Yes? No? All right. All right. So historically, as far as you look at the US, you have MBA programs that have been around for a very long time, right? At the same time, you need to understand a little bit of a classification as far as programs in the US go. So your most common type, when you hear of schools like the M7 schools, or when you hear of programs on the US News ranking, these are your regular full-time MBA programs. What do I mean when I say regular full-time MBA programs? These programs extend for a period of 2 years. They typically require candidates to have at least 24 months of work experience at the time of application. Okay? So when you are applying to a regular MBA program in the US, it is required that you be working. It is required that you have at least 24 months of work experience. Clear so far with me? Yes, attendees? Okay. Then there is a concept called deferred MBA program. What do I mean when I say deferred MBA programs? Everyone's heard of programs like the Harvard 2+2 program. I would assume everyone over here, since you all are attending this session, have heard of the Harvard 2+2. Okay, if not the Harvard 2+2, I'll compare it to a similar program in India. Have you all heard of the ISB YLP, the ISB Young Leaders Program? Okay, now for those of you who are freshers, who are in the final year of your undergraduate or postgraduate programs, deferred MBA programs are a good option for you. What do I mean when I say deferred MBA programs? You apply in your final year. If selected, you join the program 2 years later. So if selected, you have to work for a period of 2 years and then join the program. So at the end of the day, even if you secure and admit in your final year, you still have to fulfill the 2-year work ex criterion. Okay, a deferred MBA program does not mean that you will get to begin the MBA immediately after you complete your education as a student. You apply to it in the final year, and post 2 years of work experience, you begin the program. The only exception to this rule is a program offered by Yale, which is called the Yale Silver Scholars Program, in which you apply as a final year student. If selected, you join the course immediately after your final year. You complete 1 year of your MBA core, which are the compulsory subjects during your MBA. You go off on an internship for 1 year, and then you come back and do your electives. Okay? So far clear, all of you, as far as the deferred MBA and the regular MBA programs go? I've seen a question in the chat. Someone's asked me, what if I don't have more than 24 months of work experience? Then early career MBAs are a good option for you. All right. Early career MBAs are offered across a range of schools, from top schools like the University of Chicago Booth School of Business to, universities which are top 50 universities like a Northern Illinois, for example. What do early career MBAs want? They let you apply if you have less than 3 years of work experience. But again, as an early career applicant, you will have to ensure that your profile and your application reflects professional meritocracy, reflects very strong extracurriculars. Because you don't have as much work experience as a normal candidate, you have to look at compensating on other fronts. Okay? Clear so far? For those of you in the audience, there were a bunch of questions on the Q&A about people asking for MBA programs in senior leadership positions, people who have a decade and odd of work experience. So for such candidates, accelerated MBA programs are a good bet. What do I mean when I say accelerated MBA programs? These are full-time 1-year programs which take in people who are already in middle management or senior management positions. So for most of them, the minimum work ex requirement is 8 years odd. Okay? These are the typical types of MBA programs that you have in the US. Now, each of these types will be divided into a STEM program or a non-STEM program. There were a bunch of questions about STEM versus non-STEM, which I wanted to clear. So what is a STEM program all about? And I'll come to the application slide later. What I do want to cover first is the STEM program. If you go to an MBA program that has a STEM designation, as opposed to an MBA program which does not have a STEM designation, you will get a 36-month OPT for a STEM program. What is OPT? OPT is optional practical training. It is the time you can remain in the US following your MBA whilst you apply for your work visa. Okay? Now, what does the STEM MBA program offer you? It offers you a component of analytics. You can have this component across specializations. You can have it in finance, you can have it in marketing, you can have it in strategy, but you have to do an analytics component which satisfies the STEM criteria. All right. And please note, if you do a STEM MBA, a lot of your work experience post-program will typically be in the analytics domain. Okay. So the US also classifies these 4 categories of programs into STEM and non-STEM buckets. As an international student, it makes sense for you to apply to STEM MBA programs. And there's good news on that front. almost all the top 50 MBA programs in the US have STEM designations now. Okay. So right from your Harvards, Whartons, Stanfords of the world to universities like Rochester Institute of Technology or State University of New York, Buffalo, all of them have a STEM component. So you can go for a STEM MBA and avail of the 36-month OPT period, which is a safeguard, a bit of a safeguard against the H-1B lottery system. Okay. Now, coming to application and eligibility requirements. What do you need when you are applying to the US? I don't know if you guys are abreast with this latest news that you have universities that are test optional this year. So they tell you that we are waiving off the GMAT or we are waiving off the GRE. Incidentally, both tests are equally acceptable. In that case, should you submit a test score? Yes, you should, because test optional does not mean test blind. So if you submit a score and it's a good score, it always works to your advantage. So you need a standardized test score, such as the GMAT or the GRE. You need transcripts from your education done post 12th standard. So any academic or professional degree you have acquired after 12th standard needs to be supported with a transcript. And the most common question we get over here is, I have a CA qualification. Do I need a transcript for a CA qualification? Yes, you do. You need your BCom transcripts and your CA transcripts in that case. If you are applying to an early career MBA or a regular full-time MBA, or if you're applying to an accelerated MBA, you need 2 professional recommendations. Only candidates who are currently students applying to deferred MBA programs can submit an academic recommendation. You have to submit a set of application essays. Typically, these revolve around themes like your career goals, instances of accomplishments, instances of leadership, teamwork, the diversity you bring to the program, etc. Okay? And you need a 1-page application CV. This is apart from the application form, of course, that the school gives you. Some schools in the US have also started the concept of a video essay. So they want to evaluate you before interviewing you. So the idea is a video essay wherein you get a lot of behavioral questions that evaluate your personality. Okay? When do you apply to the US? Typically, your first round of the application cycle for your regular MBA programs, early career MBA programs, and accelerated programs is in September. So if you want to begin your program in 2022, September 21 is the first round. The second round will be Jan 22. Deferred MBA programs for most universities that offer deferred programs, like a Harvard or a University of Virginia, Darden, the deadline is usually in April of the application year. Okay, this is a bit of a gist about the US MBA scene. What we want to do is we want to open the floor to question and answers, because that would help you more than us giving you general info, right? So please type your questions in the chat box and we will be very happy to take them for you. All right, so I have a bunch of questions in the chat box. Someone has talked about the kind of extracurricular activities that are considered good for working professionals. Any activity that you can actually be invested in that showcases you as someone who has a bit of a multifaceted personality will be good. I know there is a lot of emphasis on NGO activity. A lot of people say that we taught poor children English and math. And very frankly, that's become very common these days, right? So if you're going to work for an NGO, you have to genuinely showcase a social conscience. Otherwise, it would not really help. But extracurriculars, in the sense that a hobby that you like, a passion that you've picked up, which showcase you are not, you're not just completely work centric, and you have a personality outside work, usually do the trick. Okay. Uh,
So Vishali, there is a good question, like common question basically. What's the difference between MIM and MBA?
that's actually a great question. So when we talk of the MIM program, right? The MIM program is a master's degree. Of course, I'm being overtly simplistic here, but the MIM program will have people only with 0 to 2 years of work experience. The maximum work experience in an MIM class will be 2 years. The MBA program, especially any MBA program you go to, whether it offers a deferred MBA or an early career MBA variant, will still have an average work ex of 4.5 to 5 years. Okay. This is why recruitment from MIM programs typically happens at entry level, while recruitment from regular MBA programs does not happen at entry level. So, Aninder, would you like to add to that?
See, I see MIM programs are like more or less if we talk in the Canadian or the US ecosystem, uh, we have few options in the USA. USA is not a famous destination for the MIMs. Europe and UK is the one you should be looking for. Uh, we do have an MSc in management. So you can go for MSc in management, or maybe some programs like Cornell is there, Duke is there. They do have the 1 year these MIM sort of programs. Even Ross has a 1 year MIM sort of a program. Canada has less number of options, and doing a 1 year program will give you a 1 year work visa. So better switch for the Europe and the UK one. And these, like Europe has more options. Doing a 2 year program from a school like say HEC, LBS will give you more insights into what sort of a specialization you're looking for. Why exactly you want to do the program? Someone wants to look for a specialization in finance, operations, anything that's possible from a 2 year program only. 1 year won't be giving you those many insights and those many learning opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, now, Ananda, there's an interesting question about professional references from someone who has a family business and startup. Uh,
Hmm.
so, yes, Harshvardhan's asked this question, and I'd like to say this, Harshvardhan, that you cannot take a recommendation from someone who's related to you. So if you are in a family business setup, maybe something from a senior employee or a client, anyone who's not a blood relative will be an acceptable reference. Anandar, would you like to add to that?
If someone is having a profession, say your family business, it's recommended to take the letter of recommendations from your clients, from your suppliers, or from your customers. You can't take it from your like any immediate blood relations. For the professional recommendations, if someone is working somewhere, so it's directly your immediate line manager. But if it's a family business, it has to be from the clients only. Or otherwise, you have to kind of hide the information that you're working in a family business and you're taking it from one of your friends or cousin brother. So those things have not to be disclosed in the application anywhere.
All right. Uh, now, what is the latest we can apply to get scholarships? Ananya has a question on this. And yes, Ananya, ideally, scholarships are more plentiful in the first round of the application cycle. But again, scholarships are based on merit. So apply if don't rush to apply for the first round and submit a mediocre application in the first round thinking that would get you a scholarship, right? So scholarships that way are more plentiful in the first round, but your application has to be up there. Okay.
So I have an interesting question. I'm in final year, and just after that, I'll be doing my MBA without having work kicks. So as like this is asked by Shreya. So as I communicated earlier, like if you don't have any work kicks or the low work kicks in Canada, you can go for the COP MBAs, or in the USA, as Vaishali shared, you can go for the early entry programs. Mind it, you can only apply for the early entry programs if you're in the final year of your bachelor's, or if you're in the final year of your master's, if there is no gap between your bachelor's and the master's. So the requirements are pretty specific. USB school, top-notch programs, excellent academics, and amazing GMAT is required.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a question about difference in job opportunities and pay packages between Canada and the US. So would you like to begin with this, Ananda?
It's a very, very subjective question. It depends on your profile. It depends on the industry you want to join. Like someone willing to go and work in, say, actuaries or maybe consulting, investment banking, he or she will get more. Okay, if someone is willing to go and work in the non-profit, he or she will get less. If you look at the career reports from the top-notch programs and even the mid-range, you will find people earning $50,000, $70,000 even from Harvard and Yale, and you will also find people earning $200,000 or 300 from Harvard and Yale. So what's the reason for that? The reason is a specific that people are looking for the learning and they go for the industries they want to work. Unlike Indians who are more or less, pro like money minded, everyone just want to do an MBA for getting a better pay package. So for the Canadian, since the same applies, like because the working culture of both the countries is almost the same. So you will find more jobs, high paying jobs in finance, in typical analytical domains or the IT industry, consulting. Those are the high paying jobs. So I hope like this thing clears your doubt.
All right. There's a question, and I'm glad someone's asked this question. I believe it's Ashwin, and the question is about the 16-year of education requirement. So look, Ashwin, as far as the US goes, most universities, at least the top universities, have done away with the 16-year requirement. All right. A lot of them accept 15 years. A lot of the universities that don't will also accept external transcript evaluations from agencies like WES, World Education Service. Okay. So at least as far as the US goes, there has been a lot of flexibility when it comes to accepting 15 years of education. Canada, yes, is a little stringent in that regard. And Ananda, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. See, Canada is having less number of top-notch schools, so it's not because of the like the geography. It's certainly like Canada is not having huge population. The top-notch schools are just around 5 to 10. US we have like almost 50. So because of this difference, the less number of these schools, again, the top-notch programs in Canada, as I said earlier, like Rotman, Schulich, D. Groot, McGill, and UBC, they had the history of accepting the 15-year education from Indian students. But lately, like it's up to the school. Like we always advise to send an email, give a snapshot of profile, get a confirmation of your 16-year education on the email, and then go for the applications. Any mid-range or low-range school in Canada, they won't accept a 15-year education anyway. So it's highly recommended, say, 3-year degree plus 1-year diploma, mix a cut. Whether the diploma is in a language, whether the diploma is even from IGNU is like equally acceptable. So I had a student, like I remember she had a 3-year degree from Delhi University, and then she had a 1-year diploma from IGNU. So that was acceptable for almost all the schools, even in the USA, anyone who was requiring the 16-year education.
Okay. There is a question on the cost of an MBA in the US versus the cost of an MBA in Canada. And look, at least for top schools, you will not find a less expensive option in any country. I would believe a Rotman MBA would be as expensive as a top MBA in the US, right? For top schools, you will not, the cost will pretty much be in the same range, which would ideally possibly be in the $75,000 to $80,000 range.
Yeah, just to add up, like say in the USA, most of the tuition fee fall in the range 110, 120, 130 USD. So in Canada, it goes in the CAD, like Canadian dollars. So Rotman increased its tuition fee this year from 120 to 131 approximately. So $131,000 at an exchange rate of say 60, you can have a calculation that it's really expensive. It's not cheap to do an MBA.
And then there's a very Canada specific question which talks about the universities that would give a career in a big four consulting firm in Canada.
See, any good 2-year MBA will always give you the skills, the tools, the network to say go into certain industry. But we don't have an MBA in consulting. We should be very specific and clear about it. A student comes with a certain background, so you're using MBA as a platform to learn something during the 2 years, and then maybe go in certain domain of the industry you want to go. You can certainly go for the consulting. Two prime requirements. One is very good GMAT, so 700 plus up and above. Second is excellent GPA when you're doing the MBA program. You have to have the at least A minus or A's in your MBA. Then only you will be able to like make a switch. Or maybe if you're lucky enough, some company comes in and they do have a role in the profile which matches your background, they can still hire you even though your GMAT may be on the lower side. But if someone is really looking to make a straightforward switch, yes, you need the GPA and you need the GMAT.
Thank you, Anandar. Now, there's one thing I'd like to suggest over here for people who have questions specific to their profile, right? We, doing a profile evaluation without having your CV in place or without having the finer details of your profile in place will be a little counterproductive, because what we will then do is give you generalizations, which doesn't make sense, right? So if you have questions on your specific profile about the kind of test scores you need to target, or the kind of schools you need to apply to, or the kind of activities you need to pursue, it would make more sense for all of you to leave your number so that we can call you, schedule a call with you, and have this sort of discussion. Otherwise, we end up giving you generalized answers here, which will not help. Okay. So those of you who have profile specific questions, please drop your numbers in the chat box so that we can connect with you to solve these profile specific questions. And, nobody else will get access to these numbers. It will be with us. So please be rest assured that we will.
Yeah, no one will bother you for that. So just writing on the front. So there is another question which has been popping up, like does internships make the resume stand good while applying for the MBA? And see, for doing an MBA, full-time work is recommended. So full-time means it should be out of your education. Doing some internships can be okay, but they're not accounted because you won't have any space in the online applications to key down your internships. So it may be helpful for getting an admission into MIM or MSc in management programs, but not for an MBA. We have answered the question for the 16-year education. There is a question which is for the age. So is 23, 24 a good age for applying MBA? I'm in third year, I want to pursue MBA. Should I sit for GRE GMAT? See, point A is you can give the GRE GMAT anytime. The scores are valid for 5 years. So better like give it, have a good score under your belt so that you can plan and apply whenever you can. Uh, age, people in the people go for an MBA once they have certain work in the West. So it's not never about say someone going at the age of 22, 23. You will find people with a 30, 35. You will find people with 35, 40, even in the classes of full-time MBA programs. So in India, I guess the concept is different. Like you just graduate and you go for an MBA because your friend has done it, or maybe someone in family has done it. So better to have an idea of the industry where you want to work, better to have an idea about the domain where you want to work, have a work ex so that you can contribute properly in the MBA classes. And thereafter, that's all. That should be a great learning exposure. Another question, what if someone is planning to come back to India after MBA abroad? That's a personal question. So it's all up to you. You may be having some requirements. If you want to come back to India, want to work in India with a foreign degree, highly recommended. Pursue the program, get international work ex, and then you can come. If you have got an MBA from a top-notch school, all the MBAs are equally acceptable even in India. So you won't be having any issues in finding a job back in India. But doing an MBA from LBS, say Cambridge and all, or maybe in the USA like Ross, Harvard, or even the decent one, UCLAs and all, everyone knows about these top-notch names in India. Uh, Shreya has another question. We do 12th or the 10th marks affect your profile. We school outside India, they don't require you to mention 10th and the 12th marks anywhere in the application. So we don't need it. There is another question, Vishali, if you can take it, like
Sure, sure.
coming up with existing MBAs, like Sid has asked, like BCom, MCom, MBA, and having 12-year of work ex, and he wants to do another MBA from the USA. So, uh, can you just share some insight?
Yeah. So, see, typically after 12 years of work experience, a 2 year full time MBA will make you an outlier. All right. The average work experience in a 2 year regular MBA is in the 4.5 year range. So, even recruitment post program or learnings from peer groups will be a little hard to combine. So it would make more sense for you to apply to your accelerated MBA options. The University of Southern California gives you one. MIT has one. Stanford has one. You have the University of Pittsburgh has one. Other universities like Emory, etc., also have a proper 1 year full-time MBA. Those would make more sense for you to apply to than a program or a 2 year program where the average work ex of the class is just in the 4.5 to 5 year range.
Like Stanford also has an MSX program, so that's a program for the like people having minimum 80 of work ex. So these are sort of the highly experienced like people can only apply to these programs, at least in the USA. And Akshit Sahai, like I think so I may have missed one part of his question. All the good schools, they always give an option to diversify or go into the consulting side. So Schulich, McGill, Rotman, UBC, all are pretty amazing to say do an MBA and then say migrate to the consulting domain in time to come.
So any more questions, people?
There are some more questions in the chat box, so maybe Akshit is. I'm just allowing him to talk. So yeah, Akshit, you can unmute and ask that question.
Yes, evening, sir and ma'am. Yes, am I audible right now?
Yeah.
Yes, evening, everyone. So I just wanted to ask whether consulting career in Canada is any inferior to US, that of US?
No way. Like consulting is consulting. So what happens is you can get a PR, you can work in Canada. Once you have a PR or a citizenship in Canada, you can go and work in the USA on sort of a work permit. So there is no difference. The requirements are same. The companies are same. The working would be the same. So like
And so, which school should we target for to get a future in this field?
see, all the top-notch school will place you in the consulting domain. Like wait for the Rotman, wait for the Sholek, McGill.
Okay.
Also have the UBC's order. So
Okay.
top-notch
So it's
school.
similar to India's trend that they Big Four only accept students from top tier colleges. So it's a similar
We don't have a
concept.
tier system in Canada. Like, see, it's very important that this word tier came up. Like, so for all the attendees, we don't have a tier system in USA or Canada. Okay, all the schools are affiliated to a university. Unlike in India, where you have like the schools like say Kirloskar, you have IMT, SPGen, MBA, even ISB. They are not affiliated to a university. They are a standalone business school.
Right, sir.
When you're talking for the Canadian or the US education system, this is a huge advantage. That you will be part of a university ecosystem. You can take electives across the departments, all across the university. You can take and use any facility across the university when you're pursuing your MBA program. And hence, if you're going from a say a mid-range university like maybe Alberta, Calgary, you can still go into consulting, but the volume of the work which will be required from your end would be a bit on the higher side.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Since in Canada the top-notch options are less. In USA you have almost 40, 50 B schools. Like every province there are 3, 4 good options to do an MBA.
Right, sir.
If I just say that LA itself has 3 top-notch schools like UCLA, you have Stanford, and you have this USC Marshall. So, can you imagine something like that in India? I don't think so.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Okay, sir. And sir, in like for example, Sholek, the university ranking is quite lower compared to what, but the college rankings are quite higher in
See,
various
Sholay
sites.
stopped participating in all these FT rankings and ETC because of some issues. So, like I suggest to everyone, all the attendees, again, when you're looking for an MBA program, look at the history of the B school. Okay, when the program began, uh, like how many cycles like of admissions it has seen. So any program which is 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, they have seen many economic downturns. Okay, just because a school didn't participate in some sort of a ranking doesn't mean their infrastructure has gone bad. The same professors they stay and teach for like years to come. So look at the location, look at the history of the school. That's pretty important in my opinion. If you find it great, then go for that MBA program.
Okay, sir. And the alumni network as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay.
So we are also having a question from Sid. Okay. Hi.
Hi, I am saying sorry because there can be some background noise. My young daughter is around. So, sorry for that. And my question is I got the answer from my first question, and you suggested that with 12 years of work X, I can go for accelerated MBA program. So there are two follow-up questions. One is GMAT required for accelerated MBA programs? Second question, if they do provide OPT post completion of program. So these are my two questions.
The GMAT is required, all right. Again, even if a school is test optional, it would be in your best interest to take the GMAT because a higher score will not. It'll increase chances of admission. And also in some cases, especially if you're looking at a career in management consulting or financial services, sometimes the GMAT tends to be used as a recruitment parameter. So taking the GMAT will always help you in terms of an OPT. Look, so if you went to USC Marshall for its 1-year program, the University of Southern California, you can do your STEM MBA by doing the management strategy specialization. MIT and Stanford also, you need to take the STEM component to do the STEM MBA. So you will get a 36-month OPT if you take your STEM electives. That is very feasible.
So that option of taking STEM MBA is available in accelerated MBA as well.
That is available, yes.
Like, see, if you do a 1-year MBA from USC Marshall, the program is named as IBR MBA. So that's for the people having minimum 6-year work ex. They have a management science as a concentration, which if you take, will make even the 1-year MBA as a STEM designated program.
Okay, cool. And okay, so how soon I can get into such program and start preparing for GMAT, and how are the schedules generally for these accelerated MBA programs?
You can begin your program next year.
So maybe you can drop down your number in the mail, and someone will reach out.
I have already done that, and it would be really great if someone can approach me for that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great insights, by the way. Thank you.
Welcome. We're glad you.
So there is we'll take some more questions. So it's good enough. So someone has put in 65% in undergrad, 6+ year of work ex. Can we apply in top unis in US, Canada? Yes, you can. All the universities, they are always in the top ranks, at least for the US and the Canada. So they are much better than India any given day. So you can certainly pick the options. You can certainly go for the best options. Depends on the GMAT you end up getting, the work ex, the quality of the work ex you have, the promotions you have had in the 6 years time period, the initiatives you have done, the leadership exposure you have, managerial work ex also makes a difference. Asim Verma asked a question: is it considered a negative if you're working in a family business? Absolutely no. People are more curious to have what sort of work ex you have done. Is it something really different, adding value to your profile? Have you gained something? Have you been able to make a difference in it? If you have your valid reasons, it's pretty much acceptable, and it's amazing to have it. There's no differentiation with a family business or any such business. There is a question from KJ. What are the requirements for the STEM MBAs in terms of bachelor's degree? See, we don't have any requirements per se for the STEM MBAs. Back in 2014-15, when the first MBAs, they started getting the STEM designation, Rochester Salmon was the first university to get it. Whether you have a 3-year degree, whether it's from say any background, whether you have a 16-year education, it can be from any background. People from music, people from the sports industry, they all do, and they all go for the MBA programs. Just you need to have some analytical band of mind, because nowadays, even the basic MBA programs, they have some analytical components, and these analytical components of the electives make your MBA a STEM designated program. So likes of Berkeley, NYU, entire MBAs are STEM. Whether you do a general management, whether you take a specialization, all the MBAs will be in the STEM designated, and you will end up getting a 3-year work permit for it. Yeah, hi. You have some questions.
Yes, this is Akanksha. Thanks for this. It's been very helpful. I had a technical question. I understand that you mentioned that it's great to have at least 2 years of work experience when we make an application. I currently have less than 1. but I was thinking of preparing for my GMAT and taking the test irrespective. I wanted to understand that if I take the GMAT this year, can I send my GMAT score to 5 colleges right now? And would it be valid next year? Or would I have to send my score only when I make my application in that year itself?
You
Uh,
can
yeah.
take it this year, but you will have to send it when you apply. Your GMAT score is valid for 5 years. Okay, but they
Okay.
prefer scores not more than 3 years old. So
Okay.
Like there is an option when you're taking the GMAT, you can send it free for the five schools. So we don't know, like if you send it for a school A and after 2 years you want to apply for the school B. So you can always send the option to a new school, but for the other school, like if you already sent a score, say in 21, 22, you can try to reach out to the school. You can put up a query that I sent the score back in 21, should I send it again? Okay,
Okay.
because you are not sure like whether you will put up an application this year, next year, next to next year.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Arun Vignesh has a question. So maybe we can take just one or two questions more and then we can wrap it up. So if we may have missed any question during this duration, so please drop in your details in the Q&A and we'll get back to you. So top 50 B schools, 5 years, public sector bank, 670 GMAT, decent enough score to make two like decent enough programs. So as we communicated earlier, like we do have the admission services, so you can certainly come to us. A consultant would help you out, and 670, like we have seen good admits to the top-notch school across the US. You can certainly get admits into the good B school even in Canada. So just go for it. Astha had a question. Can you tell the unis in Canada which accept 15 years and accept no work ex? Top-notch schools, they will all require a work ex. If you go for the really low and B school like TRU, Vancouver Island, or University Canada West, those are the sort of the schools you can look for if you don't want to give a GMAT, if you don't want to like have a more work ex and you still want to go and do an MBA program. Otherwise, like if you're looking for a decent MBA, you should be having a work ex and 15-year education. Yes, like that's subjective. So you can send an email to the university to get your profile evaluated. Pranav, this is like again a good question. So we don't have the campus placements in USA or Canada. You will get a job based on the networking. So your networking will start when you get an admission and probably continue till the time you get a job post your MBA. So there will be lots of networking sessions. There will be lots of job fairs. So you participate in them. You take advantage of club activities, and that's how you end up getting the jobs. So you won't be having the placements like you have in India that someone comes and mandatorily picks some students for giving some jobs. That's not the case with the US or the Canada. So Vishali, do you want to have some more questions or like should we call the day?
I believe we've answered most of the questions. So what we can do is we can look at wrapping up right now and then taking the one-on-one sessions later on.
Yeah, like because I'm just looking at some of the questions. They're more or less some are like pretty specific
Repetitive.
files.
Yeah.
That way, yeah. So maybe you can just wrap it up for us. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, people, for taking out time to listen to us on a Saturday evening. Again, please leave your numbers. We'd love to get in touch with you and give you more personalized advice on what you can do. Since this is a session that's open to all, we have to talk about requirements and profiles in a more generic manner. It was lovely having to interact with all of you, and thank you, Aninder, for
Your voice is disconnecting, Vishali. So I extend thanks from my side for giving the 1 hour to us. And if any questions, anything remains, we'll just try to get in touch again. You're more than welcome. So I'm just like waiting for a minute or so. If you just want to leave the contact details, you can. So, okay, so it's a 7:05. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Stay safe in the COVID times and enjoy. Less than 2 years, Nirmal, go for the MIM programs, more recommended. So last minute to drop down the details. So otherwise, I'm just ending the webinar now. Thank you, Vishali.
Thank you, Anandar. Thank you so much for being there.